I don't want to be strong like man who look pretty. I want to be strong like bitch that fight bears in the forest.
Welcome to another episode of Bitch vs. Bear with your hosts, Amber.
Me.
And me, Sydney. Woohoo! Co-owners of Shield Maiden Trading Co. This is a show where we bitch, laugh, clearly, and chat about all things fitness and wellness related to women and the LGBTQIA plus community.
Sure is.
We are all riled up. It's going to be a fun episode today.
We haven't recorded a thing.
We haven't recorded a thing, but like the outline is there. It's a good one.
I'm so excited.
The title of this episode is Unveiling Hidden Histories.
Ooh.
I know. I feel like we've just like diverged off our normal podcast and now we're on like the Discovery Channel.
It's about women.
It is. You're right.
Wellness.
Yeah. It is. It plays
in a broad sense.
In a broad sense. We're taking some creative liberties.
It's our podcast. We can do whatever we want.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think our listeners,
no.
if I know the 25 of them that are
they're going to love
subscribing.
this. I think they're going to love it. This is a great episode.
It is. I'm so excited. What are we doing?
We are going to dive into some subtle and not so subtle ways women have historically been oppressed through things that seem ordinary, we shall say. I know there's a little teaser. We're talking about things like fashion and folklore, but also innovations by women that often get buried or are underappreciated.
Oh my gosh, I love it. I'm so excited.
I wrote this episode with you in mind.
Sydney wrote me another feminist rant episode.
I did.
And I'm so excited.
I did. And I think this one's fitting for when it's coming out. It's just post-Halloween, just post-election. So some good things in here that hopefully will broaden the horizon. So yeah, that's what we're talking about today.
I'm so excited.
I'm very excited.
So excited. I can't wait. We were actually supposed to do a different episode today.
And then you heard about this one and we're like,
we're so
changing.
Excited. We couldn't not do this one.
Yeah.
All right. Let's start with something that's probably crossed your mind at some point. If you are anything like us. Pockets. Yeah. Pockets. Women's clothing, especially dresses and pants, historically didn't have functional pockets. You know those tiny little pockets that you find on some women's jeans today? They barely fit a lip balm. They're useless. This isn't just a quirky fashion choice. It actually traces back to deeper, more insidious roots. The patriarchy. I know you didn't write it in there yet, but we all know it's the patriarchy.
It is in there though. I did put it in there.
In the 19th century, as men's clothing became more practical, as it should, clothing needs to be practical, women's fashion grew increasingly restrictive. Shocker. Men needed deep pockets to carry money, tools, and other items necessary for work. But women? Society decided their role was in the home, not out handling business or personal affairs, so what could we possibly need pockets for?
What could we possibly need pockets for?
The audacity.
The audacity of having pockets.
Pockets would have meant independence, the ability to carry money, keys, or even letters, things that symbolize autonomy. And this was key because a woman with pockets was a woman who didn't need to depend on a man to carry her essentials. Even in the mid-20th century, as women began to fight for more rights, fashion lagged behind. The design of women's clothing didn't fully evolve until the feminist movements gained traction. And even today, we see the remnants of that era when function was sacrificed for appearance, all in the name of keeping women in their quote-unquote proper place. Fuck the patriarchy. Our places with deep, deep pockets to carry all of our things.
So what do? We skirted around that by making a purse.
But now we have a purse.
Yeah.
We're still being restricted. We still have this thing that we have to carry and make sure we have with us.
Laden down.
Yes.
Yeah. I know. Okay. So one of the other things that is actually part of this feminist rant and also is a piece of fashion, which I know feels like we're nitpicking fashion a little bit, but it is a place where it is most noticeable and also most subtle, right?
Yeah.
So like it's small inconveniences like not having pockets that reflect a much bigger like historical trend. There's just such a long history of women's fashion being about restriction.
Yeah. Because there's no reason not to put pockets in.
No.
For women.
No.
You know how to do it. You've done it for men.
Yeah. So
why?
Restriction, which one of the biggest restrictive pieces of clothing, and most women on here, we've never really had to deal with them because we'll get into that later in the episode, but corsets were a huge example of this restriction. They were tight lace garments. They were just uncomfortable. They were physically damaging.
Yeah.
They reshaped women's bodies into idealized forms of the time, often causing long-term health problems like breathing difficulties and organ damage. Corsets symbolized the idea that women's bodies had to conform, literally conform to male-dominated ideals of beauty, and that form was more important than function.
Fuck the patriarchy.
Yeah. And it's not like women wanted to wear corsets. They were imposed by societal standards. Like,
right.
If you didn't conform, you risk being ostracized or even labeled as like unfeminine. It's that kind of quiet, insidious control that dictated not only how women were perceived, but also how they moved through the world. Yeah. Literally making it harder for them to breathe and move.
Which is the whole goal, right? Like, we can't move, so we can't leave. So, like, we're stuck.
Yeah, exactly. We can't move. We can't breathe.
Like, where are we going to go?
Yeah.
What are we going to do?
Yeah.
Can't run away.
We can't run away. Hashtag, 50 years ago, we just celebrated that women could, get a credit card without a man signing off.
No pockets to carry our money. No breath to scream. No way to move, to run away.
Right?
Yeah, it's all, I would say it's even more than restriction. It's about control. It's about controlling women and our movements. Both just like physically our movements and like how we move about the world and exist in the world, and keeping us under the control of whatever the man in your life was.
Yeah, exactly. And it stems from, we're going to go actually back further.
Okay.
So like we this is a more recent thing, right? Like
right.
Pockets, like 19th century, 20th century, corsets, still pretty recent, but we're actually going to zoom out a little bit.
I had a corset when I was in my early 20s. But it was not the corset of the real corset times.
No, I'm pretty sure every millennial girl, I had lots of friends. They do make your boobs look great.
They do. Yeah.
But they're uncomfortable as shit.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't wear one now.
You mean in your athleisure prime?
So am I going out tops?
We don't have those now.
We don't. I don't go out now. All right. Like Sid said, we're going to take a step back and kind of zoom out, and let's talk about something that might seem unrelated at first, but it is. It ties in. Hang with us. I'm so excited. We're talking about witches. And not the funny Halloween witches with like the pointy hats, but the real historical witch hunts that were primarily about controlling women. Shocker. They were not burning witches, they were just burning women.
Yep.
So in Europe and colonial America, women who were too outspoken, too independent, or just didn't fit into the narrow mold of what society deemed appropriate at that time were branded witches. It was a way of keeping women in their place, making sure they didn't step out of line. You didn't even need to be involved in anything remotely sinister or what we might consider witchcraft, quote unquote. You could just be a midwife, a healer, or just a woman who was good at something men were afraid of, like herbal medicine. Like that was enough.
It just makes me think of Outlander.
Yes.
Like
yes. Exactly. A woman who was smart, who was independent, who was outspoken. Obviously a witch.
Obviously a witch.
Couldn't possibly just be a confident woman
Yeah, no.
existing in her life.
It's really interesting. So there's a historian who, Silvia Federici, I think she's Italian, and I believe she's
Sounds
still
Italian.
alive. She wrote extensively on this
Ooh.
topic. She argued that witch hunts were part of a larger effort to suppress women's roles as healers and midwives during the rise of capitalism.
Oh.
So before industrialism, women played such crucial roles in their communities as caregivers and medical experts. They
Yeah.
were trusted, they had autonomy, and in a lot of cases, they had held knowledge that men didn't.
Uh-oh. Must be witches.
So the rise of capitalism and modern medicine, which was male dominated, couldn't tolerate that type of independence. So women who held too much power and in those areas were branded as witches, dangerous, and disposable.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Fuck
You should
patriarchy.
look up
I'm so
Sylvia.
excited. Okay.
It's fascinating.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, my fascination with witches. I love it so much.
I know.
And, you know, it's not just about superstition. The fear of powerful women has deep roots. Even the simple act of labeling a woman as too much or too difficult echoes this same idea that women who don't fit into a quiet, controlled box are a threat. Yes, they are. Witches were demonized because they represented a type of feminine power that couldn't be controlled by men or the structure of the time. Think of how the witch hunts impacted generations of women. Those accused were often community healers, women with knowledge and power. By demonizing them, the patriarchy shifted women's roles away from positions of influence and autonomy, ensuring that the growing male-dominated fields of medicine and science would reign supreme.
Yeah.
Hashtag stop the fuckery.
Hashtag stop the fuckery.
Women's knowledge was systematically erased, their contributions minimized, and their independence stifled.
It is.
It's, yeah,
But
infuriating.
But there is some good news.
Okay.
Not a lot, but a little.
Hopefully by the time this comes out, there will be some good news.
Yeah, well, true. Here's the thing. Here's where things get really interesting. Women have always found ways to innovate despite the restrictions.
Yes.
So one of the areas that stands out is actually still science and medicine.
Yes.
So there are some brilliant women who broke through despite being pushed to the margins. Take Elizabeth Blackwell, for example. She became the first woman in the US to earn a medical degree in 1849 during a
Ooh.
time when women weren't supposed to be doctors.
Of course.
Her path, of course, wasn't easy. She
Yeah.
was rejected by every medical school she applied to until one, actually as a joke, decided to let her in thinking she would fail.
Of course.
But instead of crumbling under the weight of all of those expectations, she excelled. Because,
Of course she did.
Of course she did.
Yeah.
And that paved the way for generations of women in medicine.
Love it.
And then if you think about, Madame Curie,
Ah, yes.
who shattered barriers in a male-dominated world of science, not
Queen.
only did she discover radioactivity, but she also became the first woman to win a Nobel Prize.
Yes.
And the only person to this day to win Nobel Prizes in 2 different sciences.
Really?
Yeah, physics and chemistry.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yes.
So really her story is about persistence, obviously her intelligence, and the willingness to really push and question those societal norms, even when she was actively discouraged by the scientific community.
Good for her. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I love that. And, one of my favorites is Hedy Lamarr. You might know her as a glamorous Hollywood star, but she was also an inventor. We love a creative queen.
Yeah.
During World War II, she co-invented a frequency hopping technology that helped the Allies, and it eventually became the basis for Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. What? Wi-Fi invented by a woman who was initially famous for her beauty. Imagine that. Also take Mary Phelps Jacob, for example, In 1914, she was tired of wearing the restrictive, painful corset, so she invented something, I don't know if I'll say much more comfortable, but more comfortable.
Definitely more comfortable than a corset.
More comfortable than a corset. The modern bra. She used handkerchiefs and ribbon to create a design that allowed freedom of movement. Ah, there we go. We can move.
Yeah.
Can't breathe super well still, but we can move.
Much better than before.
This was revolutionary considering the beauty standards of the time. While Jacob sold the patent to a company, her innovation marked a pivotal moment in women's fashion as it reflected a shift towards bodily autonomy.
We love bodily autonomy.
Yeah, we do. Let's hope we still have that by November 6th when this comes out.
Fingers crossed.
And I love this. Let's not forget the bicycle.
I know, right? This is it. I love this.
I love this. I feel like we talked about this on a past episode, which
I think
makes
we
sense.
did too. Yeah.
But Susan B. Anthony once said that the bicycle had done more to emancipate women than anything else in the world. And why? Because it allowed women mobility. If we can move, we can exist outside the home.
Yes. And now we can breathe.
And now we can breathe. We can move, we can breathe. The world's our oyster. Before the bicycle became popular in the 19th century, women's transportation options were, as you might imagine, limited.
Mm-hmm.
We can't run because of the corset.
So we had to call on a man to get us a car or a horse.
I guess. Could we?
And we had to ride side saddle.
Which means you can't go very fast.
No, you can't. You can't canter. Like what? You're wild.
With bicycles, women could travel further without male assistance. It represented freedom of movement in a world that wanted to keep them stationary, both figuratively and literally.
Yeah.
We don't want you to breathe. We don't want you to move.
We don't want you to have money.
Just sit there in your home.
Scrub something.
Yeah. Down with the patriarchy.
Yes. Down with the patriarchy.
Up with the witches.
I'm glad you enjoyed your episode.
I did.
I'm so glad. But before we wrap up, I want to
Okay.
leave everyone with this thought.
Okay.
History is never neutral.
What?
The pockets we don't have, the witches that were hunted, the corsets we broke out of, these all have meaning. So the next time you slip your phone in your pocket or you wear a bra that lets you breathe, remember the women who pushed for all of these freedoms, sometimes without even realizing the broader impact of what they were doing. It's a reminder that even in the face of systemic oppression, women have always found a way to create, resist, and fight back.
Yes. Fight the patriarchy, ladies.
Hashtag
And gentlemen.
Stop the fuckery.
Everybody.
Everybody.
Nobody benefits from the patriarchy.
No.
It hurts all of us.
But
But at least some of you fuckers have pockets.
true story. Sew them in everything.
Give us pockets.
We want pockets.
Pockets of bodily autonomy. I feel like it's not that difficult.
It's not a big ask.
It's really not. Just make them a little bigger.
Yeah, they already exist in the genes. Just not well.
Just a little bigger. I'll pay the extra $5 to have a bigger pocket.
Right?
Whatever. Okay. If you enjoyed this episode, which I hope you did, because I think we had a lot of fun with it, please subscribe, rate, and leave a review on your favorite podcast platform, on our social media, wherever you do the things, and spread the word. We're taking down the patriarchy one pocket at a time. That's a wrap. Whether you're lifting weights or lifting each other up, let's keep breaking barriers, building strength, and embracing our rainbow of resilience. Until next time, bitches and bears, stay fierce and stay fabulous.